arrived in a dragon lair. When I started to get ready to cross over, a whole team of dragons came in. And when I didn't go through my normal process of transferring through the normal portal I do to the other side, I was told that we were headed to the dragon lair. Now, I should let all of you know that I have been here several times. This is the lair where, and that's Liar, where Guillee lives, and she is the queen of this lair. Marc and I have been brought here before for wisdom, and we are being brought here today, but I was told to record it for the Andromeda Council. Guillee and Kari, I didn't expect to see you here. No, we know. Surprise! This is quite a surprise. Thank you, Suri. Thank you for being here as well. Wow.
Namaste, Suri.
Namaste, Marc. Suri is a cousin to Kari, and she often works with me directly, so this is wonderful to have her here as well. What's the opportunity for today? What wisdom did you want to bring forth from the Andromeda Council, from this dragon lair? We wish to explain a little bit more about the dragons. For any of you who listened to last month's show, you learned that we used dragons to scramble triangulation feeds so that we could create the feed without the reptilians knowing where they were going. And we thought it would be helpful for everyone to learn more about dragons and what their special gifts are, and why Karen works with one and Marc, both of them work with dragons, and why dragons are so integral to our work and what we do throughout the universe. So, with that, Guillee would like to speak to you, Karen. Oh, my beautiful Guillee, of course. What wisdom would you like to share as the queen of this lair? We work with those of highest consciousness. And we say those words because highest consciousness is not about someone being better than or less than. Higher consciousness is someone who can hear, see, and experience in other dimensionalities and higher frequency realms. And that just means that molecules vibrate faster. And in order to experience a higher realm or a higher frequency, you must get your light energy vibrating in that same space. How many times, Karen, have we taken you to vibrational frequencies that are way beyond 10th dimensional, and you have trouble hearing and seeing? You've heard her speak about this. I can't see and hear. Can you help me? Especially 2 months ago when we took her into an Arcturian ship and she had to raise her vibration to a pattern of vibratory molecular movement that would align with the goddess that was there. Because most of you can't see angels. They are vibrating, moving at a speed beyond light that you can't see in. And that's what we mean by a higher consciousness. We felt it was important to bring clarity to these terms. Now, How does that fit in the dragon realm? Why is it that we need beings vibrating in those frequency patterns to be able to work with us? It is because we are vibrating there. As you have been told many times, and let us remind you, you have seen it in your movies about the elves and the gnomes and the sprites and the dragons being in other dimensions. They have had to be removed from the dimension of Earth because humans were not willing to co-create and cooperate with these elemental beings. They wanted to destroy us or use us for harm. So we had to be removed from your dimension. Now, that causes a dimensional shift and a dimensional wall to come up between the fields so that you can't see us. It's no different than spirits when they cross over, and you call it a veil. It is a dimensional field. And the reason you can't see and hear, or most people can't, is because of the lack of wanting to cooperate. Many of you listen to these shows and you want to experience dimensionality. You want to experience talking with galactics and your neighbors in the universe. You want to experience seeing and hearing and feeling in these other realms. No, as Karen has said many times, you all have the ability, but also know that Karen went through years and years and years of training. It was 10 years before the Andromeda Council introduced themselves to her. Actually, no, it was longer than that, Guillee, because it was 10 years from the time I started journeying that I was doing Marc's show, and we went to the reptilian ship, and that's when we met Commander Zillion. So it was, and he was Raz then. He wasn't a commander yet. So it was 10 years before I even was able to get into that kind of a level of ship. And then it was another 3 years before the Andromeda Council started to work with us. Correct. They were observing you. But the moment you were able to be on that ship, you were in another galaxy, and you were able to teleport. Drummond's mission for you, your previous dragon, was to create intergalactic abilities, and he did. He brought you the ability to work intergalactically so that you could teleport and go between time and space to other galaxies. My work with you has expanded you beyond to go into other universes. But as I was pointing out in this conversation, Karen evolved her ability to move between time, space, and dimension. And it took years. And the other thing that you all need to know is, again, you all have abilities. But if you do this, be very, very, very careful. Get the proper training. Because when you open yourself up to other dimensions, you open yourself up to all forms of energy. And there is a lot of energy that will harm you. There are energies that will pretend to be your ascended masters, will pretend to be God, will pretend to be Jesus, will pretend to be Archangel Michael. You will have trickster energies. And we spent 10 years training Karen for her to know the distinction. In 2011, when she met the reptilian Commander Z, she was scared out of her mind because she sensed that this robed and cloaked being was a reptilian. But she was also trained enough to read the energy signature she was getting back from that being. And the energy signature said, I wish to speak with you. I don't wish to harm you. It takes very years of training. Think about the beings on your planet that are called SEALs. They're trained by the Navy and become Navy SEALs. The intense training they go through, the intense training to learn to breathe underwater and take extreme pressures and become tolerant of extremes in every aspect of their being. They're taught how to deal with mental torture. They're taught how to hear, see, and feel in a six-dimensional pattern in space. That is the same type of training that you need to go through, and even more intense, to work in other dimensions, galaxies, and universes. It is very important for you to all understand what it takes to do this. Because more and more opportunities and situations are going to become available as the planet Earth moves into higher frequencies and these higher vibratory molecular fields that it's moving into in the age of Aquarius constellation. You will find that you can hear, see, and feel easier. But set a very, very strong intention that you will only receive unconditional love. You clear yourself, you create that pattern. Karen's meditation that she has done will teach you how to make sure you're grounded to earth and the unconditional loving realm that many of you call God or universe or spirit. And you connect to the Mother Central Sun and your Oversoul. That is your center. That is your light's star essence. When you expand into all dimensions in your light presence, Karen's logo represents this form. Make sure that anytime you connect into these higher frequency patterns, you are in that center. You are grounded to the crystal grid of Mother Earth. You are grounded to unconditional love of Father God through your crown chakra. It is critical for you to all know these distinctions as we move forward in these vibratory fields. At some point, we will have Karen lead classes. It's not time yet. The world is not ready yet. But it is becoming time for her work. She has been well trained. 20 years now. But she was trained as a child as well. That was when she first started talking to God and talking through the veil. So, know that you can go into meditation and you can ask. You can ask and connect. Once you connect to that grounding space and stand in your star energy, you can then ask to talk to your angels and your guides, and only your angels and your guides, There's the place to start. That's the place to start. Now, back to us and how we fit into this picture. As Karen evolved and started to move between dimensions, time and space was required. She could go to other galaxies. But actually, could I go to other dimensions, Guillee? Did I go to other dimensions? Marc, you're a good person to ask this. Did we go into other dimensions before you gifted me with the dragon eggs that became Drummond and my other Tressa? I don't think I did I?
Well, earlier on, you had to prepare for that, but it's the consciousness expansion and integration with the higher aspects of your own life force emanation field, consciousness emanation field, and then the living light emanation field, which is that aspect beyond form, of which, like the Sophia dragons, for example, are from that living light emanation field beyond form. Then in the creation essence in our oversoul, in pure divine access alignment with True Prime Great Source and Sophia. So the more that you're able to work on each of those levels and hold that frequency for longer periods of time and integrate it, then that assisted in your process of growth and expansion. I mean, it's one thing to tap into those higher, well, I know they don't like higher, but higher levels of, from our perspective, for brief moments, but it's another thing to actually be able to hold those frequencies and maintain them for a period of time. So you had to adapt and grow and, I guess, in a sense, evolve, even though I'm kind of iffy on that, how that word has been used on Earth. But it's a matter of adapting, adjusting, and be able to hold those frequencies for longer periods of time. And then when we were, say, in the other universe, on the aquatic ship, you remember that? That was a bit of a challenge for you.
Very much so. Because it was a different universe, which is a different... explain how the universe is a different... What's the different vibratory pattern in another universe than what we have here?
All right. Basically, there are different universes are compatible with each other because of the specific creation frequencies which they use. For example, where the aquatic ship was, used some of the same creation frequencies we have here. Therefore, their DNA would then be compatible with the creation here. And then their DNA would then be able to be brought down into this universe and be brought into various dimensionality densities of form and foster support life on that level.
Got it.
But
they were one of the farming engineering races, right? One of the they brought some of the aquatic species to this planet, right?
Exactly.
That's what you're talking about. Clarify.
Yes, exactly. Now, it is a challenge for those of us that are consciously knowing and being an experience from those far more expanded dimensionalities beyond form to actually come into a physical form, especially down in the 3D, 4D density of form, and what comes along with that, and that forgetfulness and other things, which we have a hard time adapting to it because we're so used to being out there. I mean, you've seen it in my integration process.
Yeah. I thought I had a tough time until I met Marc. Because he understands these light patterns and creation patterns and everything. So how do you put that Like, how do you have all that knowledge in 3D Earth? It's tough enough for me to understand what I understand and be on Earth, let alone someone who understands how creation works and be on Earth in a 3D form. So let me just expand something you said earlier when you said that I expanded my field. That's a really wonderful way to say it, because what they're showing me right now is an image of, I knew, a light ray, and it longitudinally. And then you start to understand what the latitude light ray is too. But as I expanded as a shaman and an intergalactic shaman and now a multiversal shaman, it's as if the ray, like my starlight energy, I'm now in my starlight energy, where before, I started as that one ray and then the longitudinal, then latitude. Now all of the rays are coming out in all directions. And it's like I expanded my light field to understand all the fractal patterns and the vibratory fields and dimensionalities of my light essence. And that's what I feel, you said well, that's what I saw when you said that I expanded into all of those other places, which, Guillee, is what allowed me to go into other dimensions, correct? Yes, well explained, both of you. That is what allowed you to start going into dimensionalities, into meeting the elf world, into coming to the dragon world. And Karen, you had that knowledge and that wisdom from your living in Chiron. Not Chiron, the other gentleman. Chiron is it's a different distinct. So wait, it's Chiron is the being that speaks. Chiron, Kyron, is a planet that has dragon riders and dragons, and it's a world where all beings are of the light. They feed on light. They don't feed on each other. So I met a stick bug gentleman. Oh God, such a peaceful, joyous being. I when I was there, they do not have a food chain. There's no food chain there. And so I had memories from there, which is how I knew I was a dragon rider when I first read the books of Pern. If anybody wants to learn about dragons, check out there's the Dragons of Pern, P-E-R-N. They're books that I found. I was led to, my angel. Guillee's winking at me. I was led to these books so that I would remember my work with dragons. Because as I read those books, I thought, oh, I want to ride a dragon. And then I'd read some more and I went, wait a minute, I bet you I already did. I bet you I was a dragon rider. So it woke up my memories to read these books. So you'll learn lots from, they're fascinating. And hopefully you can still get them. But I read those, oh goodness gracious, 30 years ago, something on that nature. So, yes, Karen, right. You were led to those books to remember. Marc, you wanted to add something?
Yes. One thing that we had been told before is that the dragons and the phoenixes are from the same kingdom. And the question is, as far as more clarity on that, and are there other beings that are in support of creation from that kingdom? Can you give us more clarity and details on that?
Well, I don't want to go into details on that because we are not talking about the Firebirds at this time.
Okay.
Marc, I lost the word. Wait, what's the word?
Phoenix.
For them? Phoenixes. Thank you. Higher birds. The phoenixes. But the clarity of the phoenix is a very strong messenger for many people like you and Karen. But really, so my phoenix is Tiana and Marc's phoenix is Fiery, and they both just popped in and said, we want to speak about us. And Guillee just sat back, like, fair enough. You know that there's powerful beings that can have a dragon shut up. You know?
Right.
There's
and the Queen of Dragons.
The Queen of Dragons just was quiet for this. So, yes, Tiana and Fiery, what would you like to share with everyone today? We would like to share that, yes, we are very important messengers. We come to beings that are ready to transform and transmute themselves. And honestly, it is extremely valuable right now at where you are in your ascension process on Earth to ask to work with a phoenix. You can ask to work, and one of our elemental friends will show up for you. They'll either be introduced to you by someone, or you will meditate and be and have a guest come visit you and let us, our world, know that you are ready to transform yourselves. It's not for the lighthearted. You have to be a strong being, and you have to wish to be willing to completely let go of your stories, let go of your stuff, let go of the victimhood of your life. Now, you've all been victimized. That is part of what the duality of your planet is, to be victimized. But the true strength of who you are is to know that the freedom is within you. The freedom is within your mind's ability to choose. I want to put a plug in here for a book that changed my world. It will rock your world. It profoundly inspired my world so much because it is a roller coaster ride of every human emotion you could ever walk, talk, or think and feel. And you will come out a better person. Talk about a phoenix ride. You want to transmute your world? Read the book, The Choice, by Dr. Edith Eger. Edith Ava Eger. E-G-E-R. At 16, she was taken to Auschwitz. Five camps that were worse later. She was pulled off of a pile of dead bodies, unable to walk with a broken back. She's 93 years old and still working and teaching. Her biography is a phoenix in its own right. It will transform you and transmute you, and you will come out a different person, because the thing that kept her alive was a statement her mother made. Remember, no one can take from you what you choose to fill your mind with. Life-altering book. Yes, Karen. Yana is saying, yes, it is. And that's what we're talking about. To survive, anybody who survived those horrors allowed themselves to be a phoenix every day. They allowed themselves to go to ashes and forget what was to create anew. They had to continually create anew. Your world is in a place right now where you need to continually create anew. You need to decide to let go of hatred and resentment and hurts and anger but this person said this and that person did that. You must let it go if you wish to work with a phoenix. And believe me, it will serve you in your highest potential to choose to let it go, to choose to work with us. You have to be willing to want to recreate yourself. It is the perfect time. It is the perfect opportunity. It will expand your field, like Karen was talking about earlier, to understand other realms of consciousness, other realms of perspective. When Dr. Egger could look at the most evil beings who were victimizing and creating atrocities against these prisoners in these camps, and realize that they were more of a prisoner than her. That's a phoenix moment. That is a transformed human emotion. That is standing in a realm outside of the perspectives you've been taught and creating yourself in a more expansive form of existence. There's the truth about who we are. Fiery is saying, yes, Marc. We are of the dragon realm. We are able to teleport as well. We can go between time and space. But we also have the ability to transform ourselves, which dragons do not. Our purpose is to work with those who wish to transform, not to go between. The dragons do that better. They can move you that way. Our purpose is to help you transform and transmute and become a brighter, higher vibratory field, because it is holding on to those hurts and those angst that keep you from seeing in other vibratory patterns. They are the density. The best analogy we have for you is your hot air balloons. When they're filled with sandbags, they cannot fly. Sand is density. Think of every single one of those grains of sand as hurts and pain and thoughts and fears. You have to let them out of the basket for the balloon to fly. If you wish to do work in higher dimensions, if you wish to be vibrating at the level of your ability as a light, you must transmute, release, forgive these patterns, these old wounds. And they can be lifetimes of wounds that you're holding on to. You have an optimal time frame to do that. It's right now. Right now. because of where you are as a solar system in the universe and in the galactic alignments. You have a window of time to do this. Use it. Use it appropriately. For those of you who are listening, you're already awakened to the possibilities. Now you have the opportunity to step into them. That is our message. That is what we wish to say today.
I do have two important questions. One is if you can give clarity to the compassion neutrality energy that the Arcturians requested for us to work with. And then we want to talk about the Schumann resonance frequency, but we'll work with that one first so people can better understand.
What clarity do you wish?
All right. So people on the average know what compassion is. But what is the compassion neutrality on the consciousness level, on the emotional level, on all levels? What compassion, like people are familiar with Kuan Yin and compassion, and then the Arcturians work with the compassion on the neutrality level. How can people better understand what that is and how to work with it consciously?
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarity. It will help everyone listening. So, compassion goes back to what we were just saying. What are you willing to release? For Dr. Egger to have compassion for the Nazis, compassion for the people who spit at them and called them names and considered them dirt because they were taught hatred. For her to have compassion and understanding that they were taught this hatred while they spit at her and starved her. That is a level of human expression and expansion of consciousness that is very unusual on your planet. It is a perspective of understanding. There are a lot of horrors happening on the planet right now. And if you get stuck in those horrors, you judge. Judgments are bags of sand. They will keep you from flying. You'll never get off the ground. But when you can look at this and say they were taught this, what karma are they involved in? What did they come back to want to learn? What is, you can't even. There are so many factors and possibilities in choices in the world. What is the choice? Or have they forgotten who they are as a light being? Have they forgotten what love is? Do they have the brain capacity to understand what love is? Or have they just been taught so severely about hatred that they don't yet know the distinction and the clarity? So when we ask you to have a compassion and understanding, Dr. Egger is a prime example. To understand that the Nazis weren't free in their own minds. They weren't free because they were taught hatred. And that was their prison. But she wasn't. She wasn't. She was free to continue to love and believe that people could change. That is compassion and understanding. And she created a field of neutrality for herself that had her survive, number one, and number two, has made her an incredible teacher and mentor and therapist for your planet. She created that field of neutrality that then others stepped into and learned through her, from her, because of her. That's a prime example of the field of neutrality. Judgment keeps you imprisoned. There's a wonderful quote that Karen learned. It was written when she started studying as a life coach. We're going to let her tell it. I don't have it memorized, but what I can tell you I remember of this story is that there was someone who lived in a castle, and there was a dungeon. And every day she had to go to this dungeon and feed the prisoners. And when she walked into the dungeon, there were all these closed doors, and there were names on these doors. And one was named Judgment. The next door was named Anger. And the next door was Resentment. The next one was Jealousy. The next one was Envy. The next one was Hatred. And as she walked around the dungeon, feeding all of these prisoners, she didn't realize that she was a prisoner with them, because she had to keep feeding them. Exactly. That story says a lot. When you choose these emotions, you are a prisoner. The Nazis were prisoners to their own hatred. Who are you going to choose to be? Compassion. Compassion is that woman walking out the door in the sunshine, believing that there is beauty everywhere, understanding that she has a choice to walk out of her castle every day and see the beauty. And in that belief system, birds sing around her, butterflies fly around her, crickets and frogs chirp and ribbit. There's a field of love, a field of neutrality that beings feel safe in. They feel safe to come to her in. Who do you wish to be? If you wish to get rid of your dungeons, call on the phoenixes. We will assist you. Marc, your second question.
Yeah, so that the listeners better understand, they hear about the Schumann resonance frequency and how that is getting higher and higher. They've heard of the solar flash event and the energies coming in pulses of that. Can you help the listeners to better understand what those are and how it is affecting them on all levels, and the Earth and planetary system and so forth through this ascension process, moving up through the dimensions, octaves of 4D and so forth? Can help them to better understand what those are and how it has affected them, and how to consciously work with that to not only for them to help themselves, but also and to help others as well in the service of of love to support others through this process.
Fiery's bowing and saying, you can help them understand that better than we can. And they are taking their leave. So, Guillee, would you like Marc to expand on that? Marc, it is very important for everyone to understand. We feel like the basics that are needed right now is that everybody understand your planet and solar system are moving through a different area of the universe than the age of Pisces. This area has a higher molecular movement. So that's why we keep talking about frequencies. It's sort of like if you're doing an experiment and you have, just water sitting there, but you start to heat it up and you boil it and it starts to bubble and move, or you turn on a blender and you put it to super high speed, it's moving much faster. That's what's happening in the universal area that you are in. And that is what is causing the Schumann resonance, the core of Earth, to spin faster. And it's causing this resonance pattern to shift on your planet. So from a basic standpoint, that is causing all of you. How many of you feel like you're just like, you're moving, like everything is more intense than it was? Karen has laughed with people and said, what used to be 15 minutes is now 5. So right. An hour is now 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yes. How they're perceiving time. Exactly, yeah.
So because of these patterns, everything has shifted, and it will affect your vibratory field. You hear Marc talk all the time about the consciousness field and the vibratory pattern field and the creation field and Earth eminence, resonance pattern, and you get all of these different patterns vibrating in a faster molecular movement, and you're going to feel it.
Right. The process I work with is a life force emanation field, and then the consciousness emanation field, and then the living light emanation field, which is beyond form, and then the creation essence is all of that together and more in pure divine access alignment through our oversoul with Prime Creator Source, and Sophia, Omniverse Creation Collective Focus Point, as one collective consciousness from which creation for all the universes comes from and through.
Fiery just winked and said, see, I told him he could explain it better. So, okay. Yes, that's and if any of you out there are going, what? Just know that I do that often when Marc talks. And I'm like, wait, what? Because it's so out there. But if you hear it enough, I'm starting to understand it, so just bear with it. Just kind of know that there's a lot to learn. Okay.
All right. Now, the other component part is the solar flash pulses instead of it necessarily being all at once, which is what a lot of people are hearing.
So you're asking what's going to happen.
Yes, because as you know, we're hearing different things from different people on Earth, but we're looking for the truth, not the rumors per se, the facts of the process moving forward. Is there going to be like a huge solar flash event? A huge solar flash event where there's going to be an evacuation of a lot of the population, or in that process, or is that just of a different timeline, or you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Guillee, you're going to answer that, correct? Yes, I am. Marc, there's not technology. I don't know what word he's trying to give me right now. There are methods and patterns that can be used we have seen and heard used in other galaxies and solar systems to minimize solar flares and flashes so that it doesn't wipe out planets and species. We are studying, have been for a very long time, studying Earth, Sun, and your solar system to determine if we can consciously is not the right word. If we can, in an integrous way, alter the pattern so it wouldn't be one major flash. So far, there have been small ones which can be managed on the planet. We have teams working on that. Just know that we have teams. We're working to create an event, small events, not one big event, and that it could be monitored and prevented from being catastrophic. At this point, we feel that we will be able to do that. And there are backup plans for evacuations and whatever is needed. So know that your neighbors are looking out for you. We are on it. We are evaluating it, and we are creating ways to, in integrity, in spiritual alignment, create a flow that will empower your solar system, not destroy it. It will be constructive, not destructive. Thank you. All right. Guillee wants to finalize what she is saying. Thank you, Guillee. Yes, I want to make sure that everybody knows. One of the major reasons that Karen works with us is to go between dimensions, and most importantly, move between space and time. When we go between, we have our point of focus, and we can go back to a point in time. And it makes it very convenient for them to do shows, because if they need to be at a meeting that happened 3 days ago, we take her back to time, space, and dimension before the meeting happened. And yes, that will have many of you go, wait, what? What? Yes, there are portals that can go back and forth in time. That's another whole conversation. That's a scientific conversation Karen doesn't know enough about to explain at this point. So just know that we can do that. We can do that, and that's why we work with her. Now, to further explain what happened last month in the triangulation process, when we were able to go, so the triangulation was formed, and that's a point, 3 points of reference that feedback was giving. So information was being sent in a feedback loop with 3 points, and so that it could go to one point to another point. If we had let it be that simple, the reptilian ship could have traced it, and they could have found the shuttle, they could have found the spy, and they could have found the spaceship that it was going back to, as well as the shuttle. Now, it was also a Merkaba because there was another spaceship and shuttle receiving the information. So there were 6 points to this loop. If we had allowed it to just be that, they could have found those points and they could have destroyed them. All would have been destroyed. So what was created is our dragon lair kept flying in those fields and going between time and space. So we take that feedback loop to a different time and then back again. And we kept going in and out of it. And by going in and out of it, we caused waves of movement. And those waves prevented them from finding out where the feed was going to. So it just seemed like it was space energy. There were densities in space. It could have been a nebula. It could have been gas. It could have been some kind of chemical formula that was in this field. And that's what was causing this interruption of flow. And they suspected that that was what they were getting as an energy signal in their ship. By doing that movement, the Andromeda Council was able to get their feed. We were able to keep taking the information and sending it, but we go between time and space to a different place and send it. So we were grabbing the bits of information and sending, grabbing, sending, grabbing, sending. And by doing that, it scrambled to field that the reptilians could see. Have you done this before? Guillee, has the Andromeda Council used this technique before? No. Commander Zillion's group came up with this plan. How cool is that? Oh my gosh.
Marc, I have a follow-up question with regard to that. I've been working with, as you know, with the idea that we had discussed regarding to add on a carrier remodulation frequency to that feedback loop, as well as where they intended to send it, which would go to wherever there is nanotechnology and reprogram it, perhaps to even reverse the negative thing that it was programmed to do, which it did in those individuals, for it then to reverse that and then undo what it did and bring them back to their baseline and or better, and then to self-destruct when it gets to a certain point. What is the follow-up update on that? And if there's anything more that needs to be done, of course, I'm here as well as my team to support, as always.
That's a different conversation, Marc, Guillee is saying. And we are still monitoring that. Again, we need to determine where that can be used appropriately and where it's not. And you have been working in the areas that we've guided you to do. But we don't really want to discuss that in this meeting because we don't want others without your knowledge to attempt it.
Okay.
So
All right, then, of course, as always, we'll work with your appropriate teams, and we'll get this done.
Yes. And just to, now that I've said that, what Marc is talking about is when we discovered what was in each of the bases last month and what the reptilians were using the bases for. Were there slaves? Were there weapons? Were there super soldiers? What was at each of these points that we had discovered were underground bases of the reptilians throughout that galaxy? We are attempting to determine what needs to be done at each location based on what is there. Some of them we can use the technologies that Marc is working on. Others we cannot. If they're slaves, we do not want it to self-destruct. So we are working with those technologies, so there's a definite purpose in place for them. That's very technical, and Commander Zillion's teams are still working on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any last minute information that we need before we end this session? Oh, the dragons are all crooning. Our realm sends love to the planet. We wish to work together with you at some point. We know that the Elf Kingdom asked you in December's show, the December 2020 show, whether or not you would be open to working with them again. Our realm is asking for the opportunities again that we could work in collaboration and cooperation with humans again. We missed those connections. We have them in other places, but not Earth. And it is an absolute joy to work with Karen and Marc. And we hope that there will be others that we can work with as well. It is our intent and our declaration that we will once again be working with humans. We are honored to work with the Andromeda Council, and we are happy that they found our lair because of Karen and Marc. So, we thank you all for your love and support to listen to these shows, and we wished to have you better understand us and our role and our intent and our purpose. We love and honor you, and we take our leave. Namaste.
Yeah. Namaste. Movie is Aragon, Eragon, which is about dragons, dragon eggs, and empowerment, and working with the dragons directly. There's another great movie.
Right. And The Lord of the Rings is the one I was thinking of earlier that really kind of tells the history of why the elementals had to go to different kingdoms. They had to step away. And what I understand is different kingdoms are different dimensions. They're in dimensions, like the elf world dimension and the dragon dimension. Those are the dimensions are the kingdoms that they were sent to. So thank you, Marc. That's wonderful.
Well,
right.
Just remember, with the dragons, there are the dragons that are more physical, and then there's the Sophia dragons, which come from beyond form into form. So that's another good example that you and I have seen directly.
We have. And then there's the fire dragons, which are the small ones. And you see those often depicted in Chinese artwork, the fire dragons. So, and they have a different purpose too. They're explained in the books on Pern. There's books about the fire dragons as well. So, all right, Guillee, what would you like to say to wrap up this session? I would like to thank you all for wanting this knowledge, for wanting to learn about your neighbors and friends in the galaxies. We enjoy working with our tarot representatives so much. Karen and Marc aren't the only ones that we work with. And we honor your hearts and your desires, your intentions, your declarations. We honor that you wish to step into your sovereignty. We honor that you wish to ascend to 5D. And we want to remind everyone, as was said in the previous show as well, the fifth dimension is a constant choice of consciousness. It's a constant choice of compassion. It's a constant choice of love. It's a constant choice of understanding. It's a constant choice of forgiveness. It's a constant choice to stay in a field of neutrality. Because it is removing the judgments, the angers, the resentments, it's removing your dungeons that have you be able to vibrate at the frequency pattern of fifth dimension. It's a vibratory field, and you've got to get rid of the sandbags of fear and emotions that hold you back from staying in that vibration. Karen can do this work because she has remembered how, as a shaman, to release her stuff, her sandbags, to come and receive this information. So when she gets back to Earth, she wears sandbags again. We keep working with her. She keeps letting go, and then more happen. It's a process. Just be kind and gracious and loving to yourselves to know that it's a process. And you will get triggered. It's much easier when you're in a different dimension or realm to not carry those bags than it is when you're in 3D and you get triggered. But the faster you can put it down, the more you can stay in a fifth dimensional vibratory field of compassion, love, and understanding. We honor you on your journey. We are here to assist. We will continue to bring you the knowledge that will allow you to thrive as a light being in your sovereignty. Namaste.
Namaste. And as always, Karen and I and all of our listeners send our love, support, and appreciation and respect to you and everyone else that has spoken today in their realms and all those that support the work. And we shall co-create the new earth together and so much more.
Thank you, everyone. It has been an absolutely fascinating show. I did not foresee this coming, and am very happy to have been surprised with such beautiful wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for Guillee. I love and adore you. You know that. Thank you for bringing such wonderful wisdom and understanding to all of our Awakenings family. I truly feel that it was a valuable opportunity for everyone to hear, feel, and experience with you. So I thank you all. I want to let everybody know that Marc's information is attached to show notes. You can find out how to reach him. My information, if you click on my website, you'll find everything there of how to connect with us and our work. We ask that everybody please subscribe and hit the bell. In today's world, that's the only way that you'll be able to continue to get notices of this work. It helps us as we grow this membership and share this wisdom. We grow the Awakenings family, and that's what's important, that people get this knowledge and wisdom. And please hit the like bell. That will assist us as well. The more that we grow our family, the more opportunities we will have to expand this channel. So we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. And we send our love for a field of neutrality for each and every one of us on this planet. Until next month, namaste.
Namaste.